In this video, I want to show you my workflow for this pocket page layout that I created. To start off with, you're going to want to pick your pocket page protectors, the designs that you want to use. And in this case, I picked the 4x4s, and then I have a 6x12 and 4x6s on the left. Now I'm going to use the photo templates to help me figure out exactly which pictures for which pocket. Since the right side is all 4x4s, I'm just trimming those down to 4x4s on those pictures. For ones that I'm not quite sure about, I did of course use the template again to help me just make sure to line it up. Now I'm going to use my pattern paper to fill in the other pockets and play to create with those. And to start off with, I'm just going to cut some background papers so that I have something to create on top of. So I have the 6x12 pocket on the left side, which is going to be a lot of fun. A good place for me to add a sentiment from that layout kit that I'm using. So I'm going to quickly just kind of play around, see what I can come up with, kind of set the mood for this spread that I'm working on. Now I went ahead and cut apart my title sheet just because I wanted to make sure to include the titles into my designs. So before I got any further, I wanted to put those out there so that I included them. Now I'm using the Tiny Celebrate and just kind of deciding which accessories would work with the theme that I'm going with here, which is the carnival theme. And now I'm kind of getting a feel for the paper that I'm using. I love this pattern paper here. It's a great one to kind of pull all the colors and patterns together and really allow the mood in the pictures to shine as well. So I went ahead and cut that just so that I can get a sense of my layout. Now I'm trying to figure out what pattern to cut that border, so you'll see that I lined them up just to kind of see what they layered with the other pattern that I just cut out with lacy trims, and I went ahead and traced that border out. Now I'm going to figure out what template will work with that sentiment that I want to use. And I ended up deciding that I didn't want the bracket. I felt like the bracket and lacy trims kind of competed, so I went with strips instead. So I went ahead and cut that sentiment apart. I definitely love the pinwheel as an extra added layer there. But I'm going to go ahead and move to the right side and again cut those background sheets so that I can start decorating some things over on the right to see where I need to pull different patterns and colors in. I did a variety of colors, so I didn't make all of my background sheets the same color. And if you were doing more than one spread, you could have the opposite side of this pocket page protector continue your theme, which double-sided would work great for that. So now I'm going to just take one pocket at a time, and so I decided to go ahead with the ticket theme here on this one. It's a fun way to use Celebrate and Tiny Celebrate together. Traced a little border out using the pocket borders. And again, just playing with a couple different layers. You'll notice that I moved on, and I think I moved on basically because I know that I want to add journaling to that ticket. So I thought, you know what, I'll come back to that one. So I'm going to move on to one that I know that I can get finished here. So I went ahead and traced and cut each of those designs out and then add ink to give it dimension. But really quickly, if you have a dark pattern like this red and you're having a hard time seeing it, you can use a white pencil. So I just wanted to show you what that looks like. And you could see that I traced that balloon out of that white pencil on that. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly finish up this pocket so that I can create my own decorative filler card for my pocket page protectors. And this one is a very simple one just because it is a title. So really all I need to do is ink the edges, and then I want to add a touch of color there. So just kind of seeing if that red helps those words, or if maybe I should have a little bit more character there. And I went with the more character with the pattern. I also wanted the patterns to balance, and so since the border on the left was chevrons, it helped to do this one design out of that same chevron pattern. Now I have 2 of the pockets done, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the third one. And if you had more photos, you could do less decorative filler cards, but I like to have a mixture. So for this one, I pulled in Wild Side, which actually then made me think of the pattern which is in the papers, and that definitely inspired me. So see how the chevrons and the strips are in that pattern. And I thought, well, that could be really fun to incorporate that and use that concept for a decorative filler card. So I'm just going to do some chevrons and some strips and just different patterns and colors out of those. I love this arrow pattern, it's so fun. So I went ahead and traced 2 side by side and lined them up, and then cut the edge and then the other side of that one and then up the middle, so that I had 2 chevrons instantly to play with. So I did one with the arrows, used one of the decorative strips, and then I'm going to flip that pattern over since they're double-sided, and then the reds on the other side. So that allowed me to get those both done at the same time. And then another strip, and this one is done. And so I'm going ahead to adhere those down for this specific pocket design that we're working on, and then trim up those edges a little, ink the edges. I always ink the edges of my layouts, and even every pocket I ink the edges of them. So now I'm just trying to decide what this last pocket could be, what templates we can use. And Tiny Charmed is a really fun set, so I wanted to use that one. And again, just trying to keep them simple but colorful, because the whole carnival feel is definitely a very colorful theme. So I'm going to cut a couple of those octagons up, and that will add patterns and colors on top of that black background. And then the Tiny Charmed heart, just a little bit extra character to that specific square. So I'm going to adhere those down so that I can trim the edges. And one more there, using my scraps. And so I'm just going to quickly cut that out. It's so cute. Even me just watching this video, walking you through it, it makes me smile. It was a fun layout to do. So I'm going to add a couple more patterns in there, and then that will definitely help. And then I'm going to trim those edges and then ink the sides of the pockets. Now, one thing I noticed on the red is that it wasn't really popping off of the black, so I'm going to go ahead and cut another one out of blue. And honestly, I do this occasionally. Like, there are times that even I cut something out and it's just not popping. And so, you know what? Go ahead and cut another one out. 30 seconds and you'll be much happier with your finished design. So if something's just not feeling right, you might not have the right pattern or color for it. Okay, so this one I used the ticket from the Celebrate set and went ahead and lined that up and traced it out of the elements. So because I wanted that sentiment in my design and to utilize that sentiment on my layout, I had to adjust that design a little. So just depending on what you're working with, you can always alter things if you want. And I really would love more patterns and colors over on my left side, so that's what I'm playing with right now, is just what designs can I actually now add on top of my photos, which is really fun that you can do an extra little touch of something even on top of your 4x6 photos. So in this case, I'm trimming down some of the paper even, because that part of the photo, it's just the wall really. So nothing that I'm covering is too important in that picture. Okay, going on to the pinwheel. You'll notice that I pointed out that I had a lot of blue on the right, so I went ahead and decided to cut the pinwheel out of blue. So here's a close look of me doing that. After you trace the design, you detach it from the paper, and then I cut around the edge of the design and then snip inside. So it just depends on what design you're cutting out, but just keep those steps in. So detach it, trace the outer edge, and then inside of the design. So that comes together really quickly. Now I have my journaling, and I'm going to print it out. I wanted to print it on this yellow, so I printed out on the 8.5 by 11, and then I'm going to go ahead and send it through the printer again so that it's printed on the yellow pattern. Now I'm using the designer template to line it up and trace out the journaling in the shape that I want. In this case, I want to extend the design a little because the journaling was a little bit more than the design size is. So I just went ahead and moved that ticket over, made it a little bit more elongated in this case. So you can adjust some of those things as you go along. So now for printing journaling, as you saw that I just did, we actually do have a YouTube video for that in all the steps that I do when I print my journaling, similar to what you just saw me do. Now I'm just going to add some basic embellishments, so some ribbon or some buttons, just little things to give that finishing touch if needed on the different elements that I used. And some pop-up on that one. Usually when I have two layers next to each other, it's nice to pop one of them up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the tickets too, so they separate. And a little pop-up on the heart. And we're going to go ahead and make our pinwheel 3D. So I put a glue dot in the middle, and then I just fold down the corners one at a time into the pinwheel. And then something in the middle to give it that finishing touch. And since I pulled some over these little gems over on the left, I thought, I better find something to add them to over here. So simple touches, nothing too fancy or crazy. And now I'm really down to just seeing which elements I happen to miss inking so that I make sure everything has that nice finished look. Okay, so I noticed that the page protector was flipped, so I actually need to have those 3 holes on the right side because this is the left in my album. And that's okay, it's still going to look good with them. It's basically flipped in the design than I originally had thought it was going to be when I started. So I'm just putting each of the pockets into the pocket page protector, like so. And so that each one goes in the separate pockets. And then I'm done. That is my pocket page layout.